All right, well, welcome everybody. So tonight we're going to be talking about using insert learning for professional development. So just to give you the background, I'm one of the teacher co-founders of Insert Learning. My name is Matt. And in my new role at the charter school that I'm at, one of my jobs is actually, I'm the STEM coordinator, but then also I'm in charge of kind of doing the technology integration. So professional development and training is kind of an important thing. And as we're trying to integrate more STEM and even looking at standards-based grading, there's a lot of different things to kind of read about instead of just simply me or really any of you. If you're running a workshop or doing professional development, people, you don't want to be you just telling people or just throwing articles out there and not really knowing what impact it's going to have. So I'm going to share some things that I've done and some of the new things that we're working on with Insert Learning. So to start off with, I'm going to share my screen. Now I'm going to say there we go. I'm going to add a little note. For this, I like to kind of have all of our live webinars be a little bit interactive. For tonight, it's going to be a little bit different, but if you would like to join our group PLC or our group PLC, email me at matt@insertlearning.com, and then I'll add you to our group PLC. So I'm going to start off by showing you guys, it's like the window within window, of one of the first, or really for me, this is the first Insert Learning PLC thing that I've kind of done. There's two different ways you can do this with teachers, but I'm going to show you this first one. So I'm just going to start off by showing you my example, because the problem is, I want to show you the article first, right? The problem here is that when you're sharing an article with somebody, whether it's just simply one or two colleagues or it's going to be 100 different teachers in your school, you want to know what are people getting out of it, and you also probably have something that you've got that you want to tailor this to them. So for this article, we're talking about formative assessments and in my school, and kind of like giving feedback to students. And so this I thought was a really good article off of Edutopia. And so what I'll do is I've already used Insert Learning on this one. And the way I started this off was a discussion question. So how are you currently giving feedback to students on their writing? And I set this up so that all the teachers are co-teachers. That means that we can see everyone else's annotations at the same time. So then as people are kind of getting started, they're able to read this. And what I found is that it was really interesting because even though I created the article, I was going through and reading through the article multiple times because each time that someone else had added some stuff, it had some extra value for me, and everyone else in our meeting also felt the same way. We did this kind of as like a face-to-face, we're all together in the same room, and gave people about 20 minutes to read through the article and annotate. And so these are annotations that people were adding in. And some people did different colors that were on there. And then I kind of did different discussion questions that were on here. I went with having just discussion questions and no like regular, like question that you'd have for students. But so we're kind of going along. It was interesting because then people were adding in more comments and kind of sharing their insight and their knowledge and what it is that they're doing. For a couple of these questions, I pre-loaded them of where I added in my own response ahead of time. So as I was reading through, I'd create the question and then put in my own response. And one of the things too is that they don't have to be these big elaborate things that you create. For this one, I just simply added in this discussion question of what are your thoughts about this? And then I put in my thoughts, and then other people kind of added theirs. And again, as people are reading through, there's a lot of value in going back and rereading and seeing what other people are saying. It kind of gives new light to it. So I'm just going to scroll through here, right? So you can see of like we've added a lot of stuff. And then what I really liked was we ended up having this really great discussion because we're all face-to-face. There's about 30 of us. And people come with some really good ideas. And it's like, okay, what do we want to do next now as a PLC, as a school, to act on these things? And so I actually then just added in a sticky note, and I had this up on our projector, and then I started adding in notes of like, these are some things that we want to do now. So this is kind of like one of the ways that I set it up. And so I'll show you kind of how we set this thing up, excuse me, as we're going along. So, and also again, if you want to get added into our Insert Learning PLC group that we're putting together, just go ahead and message me, and I'll share with you guys how that kind of works. And so I'm going to share my screen again here. I'll be checking back and forth to the comments on YouTube. So if you have anything that you want to add, or any questions that you have, you want me to address something, just go ahead and add in those comments on there. You can, of course, always email me, matt@insertlearning.com, and I'll email you back. So, all right, so I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so I'm going to first head over to my InsertLearning Dashboard, and I'll explain to you how it is that I set this up. So there's two different ways that you can do PLCs, or just simply like insert learning with other teachers. One option is to have them sign up as a student. So they can either go through the sign up process as like when they first go to Insert Learning. I'll do this sometimes for workshops of where I have them then sign up. And when they do that, then I have to tell them to sign up as a student. One of the downsides is sometimes teachers forget to switch back to being a teacher. And so then they don't get some of our like welcome emails. And then when they try to create a lesson, they get confused because they're a student and not a teacher. What we're recommending, and we're going to be releasing some new features pretty soon to kind of help this is, and I should mention, you can switch between teacher and student by clicking on your profile icon up there, and then just select student. You can switch back and forth. What we're recommending, what we're actually testing out on our own, is creating a class and then inviting people to be co-teachers. So this is our shared class. So it's Global PD is kind of our test PLC that we're doing right now. And what I've done was I invited then 17, excuse me, I invited 17 teachers to be co-teachers in the class with me. So if I click on that, what you do is, right, so when you create your class, you click on teachers over here, and then click on that, and then invite co-teacher. And then you just type in their email, and then for each person, you just kind of send them an email. They'll receive an email then with a link they'll click on. It'll take them to the dashboard. And then for the teachers, what they'll see is in their classes section, they'll see the new class, and then they click accept to now join that class as a co-teacher. So for one of the ones that I'll show you here that I'm working on, right? Yes, there we go. So it was one on ditch that textbook. And so this one seemed kind of relevant to me because, right, with Insert Learning, you're sending students out to all these other sites. So kind of this concern of as teachers move digital, we've kind of got a lot of new fears because we're kind of giving up a little bit of control. So I thought this would be a good one to test. So the idea here is that you've invited all of your teachers now to be co-teachers in your class. And as you're going through, then you can now start adding you can add your stuff in. So I like to add in a sticky note up at the beginning. You can record a video welcome message as well. And what I like to do is I like to just simply stick with the discussion questions and then the sticky notes and the highlights. I avoid using the question tool because that kind of hides some of those responses. And so I just like having the discussion because then it also kind of shows up, it kind of reminds people see that there's something popping up there. And again, you don't have to overthink this when you're creating your articles with other teachers. Just kind of add in this question, what are your fears? Or is there a time that something happened? Right, so now we can kind of like start talking about this a little bit. I know how this all happened. And so then teachers going through this. And so when you're all done and you've added in a couple of discussion questions here and there, then what last step you'll need to do is then assign that lesson to your class that you have everybody set up as a co-teacher. So I'm going to assign this to our global PD. And then what I'll do is I'll just simply copy this link, and it's got hashtag insert learning at the end. And now any of my teachers that are co-teachers in that class, when they go there, they'll now see what I've got. Now, there are a couple of things that you should be aware of. As we're doing this, teachers do have the ability to accidentally delete or remove things. So if another teacher clicked on the delete or remove button, then this would go away for everybody. Same thing if they clicked on edit and then delete, then your question would be deleted. Now, this is something that we're working on, kind of a really exciting kind of like Teams version or feature that we're adding into Insert Learning, where it's going to work a lot like this of being able to see everyone else's annotations in real time, show up on the page all at once, and discussions and stuff like that. So it's much more level playing field, but you won't have to run that danger of somebody deleting it. And we're also kind of exploring this idea of getting notifications if someone has responded to your discussion or if someone else has highlighted something, or if somebody's finished reading it. So then you've assigned it out, and then you just simply copy and paste that link and you send that out to everyone. Another option is instead having people be a student in your class, and then they would go through, and it's going to work just like Insert Learning as with a student, where you can then see their annotations by selecting individual people. The downside is teachers can't see other teachers' annotations on there. So if I go back to here, they wouldn't be able to see other students' annotations on the pages because they're being set up as a student. One of the things, though, that I do like about this is that just like with Insert Learning for students, this gives you the ability now to take some articles that you maybe really totally get how it fits with what you're doing, but you know that other teachers aren't going to make the connections, or maybe they're not at the same level of where you're at. You can add in these discussions to kind of pull them into the article and get them thinking about certain things, or even add in a video explaining how, while this doesn't work exactly with your student population, this is how you see being able to modify it or take one component of this idea and apply it to your students or your school specifically. All right, so I'm going to pause right here and head back to see if anybody's got any questions. Hey, Craig. I'm glad you could join us, Craig. And thank you. It was great to hear about your first lesson today. I do have, I mean, really, this is a pretty short one. I am kind of inviting everybody to join our PLC, our group PLC. And I'll pull up that one because I did the same article, but people kind of approach it a little bit differently. So I'm going to select Global PD, and I'll open this one up. And so here I added in a video message. Hey there, testers. Okay, so for this article and all future articles, what we're going to be doing is experiment with highlighting and adding in your own notes. So I used the record tool right here to make a video thing, a little video on there telling me teachers what we wanted to do. And this is with kind of teachers from all across the world that are kind of in our global PD, as we're experimenting with this idea in how does it change professional development. And then kind of their discussions, question responses in here. And it's kind of interesting because people had a kind of a mix of responding to the questions of them as teachers, and then some of them also just kind of like beta testers. So I had highlighted a couple of things in here. I left in some notes. I think someone else added this one in. And then we had lots of discussions. And down here at the end, then I added in a little discussion question right here of give us some feedback on this reading experience. And let's see, Keith, I just got your message, so I will add you to the PLC group. And so it's kind of a really interesting thing. What was really interesting or really valuable for the other teachers was that, again, I feel like I'm a broken record, but it was really cool of going back and seeing what everybody had kind of said as they were going through. This approach to using Insert Learning with teachers for professional development is something that's not real new, but we're looking a lot at this as being a way that's going to have a lot of value in schools. So please do message us with what are some things that you think are going to really make this even more powerful for helping you transform the way it is that you're learning as professionals and how you're sharing with other teachers. All right, so I'm going to take this off of screen sharing here. Oh, hey, Catherine. Can you see who had? No, okay, all right, so I'm looking at Catherine's comment right now. So she wrote, I participated in the Global PD Edutopia article, and I can't wait to go back and see the additional responses. Can you see who adds which notes or highlights? No, not at this moment, but we are going to be adding that in really soon. Our two things we've got coming up with kind of like our Teams feature that we're going to be developing, that doing right now, Ben's working on. It was his birthday yesterday, so everybody wish him happy birthday on Twitter, Ben Patterson. And the what was it? Yeah, so one is going to be of only the person that initially creates and assigns that article can delete elements. And then the other one is going to be being able to quickly see who can or that everybody can also see who's added those annotations too. So you can kind of like, we're kind of maybe like move the mouse over it and it kind of shows you like the little icon, profile icon next to it. We're kind of experimenting with that, right? Because you don't want to like take over the screen, but quickly see who's added that. Because for me, that was a big part of it too. Is like people added really cool comments. I was like, oh, who said that? Even though we're all in the same room, it's like I don't want to interrupt everyone else that's reading. Because it's sort of like, but that was a cool idea, and so we actually kind of talked about that later. All right, so now we get a question from Craig. So it's using a lesson with Google Documents they created, and it was also part of Google Classroom. It seemed like students had the ability to edit the document. Is that true? Let's see. If students had the ability, if students had editing rights to the original Google Doc, then yes, they would be able to edit that Google Doc and changes would show up in that published Google Doc. There's usually like, there's a couple minute delay between changes on the Google Doc and the published one, but changes would sync up. We made the system so it's pretty good at, if there's text changes, of where to put them. But obviously if you delete like whole paragraphs, it's going to kind of get confused and be like, there's nothing to put the annotation on anymore because that whole sentence is gone. So correct me if it's wrong, if I got that wrong, Craig, but it sounds like students had the ability to edit the document itself. So it could be of, if you had shared that Google Doc via Classroom so that everyone had editing abilities on that Google Doc, then yeah, then they could have gone to that Google Doc, changed the Google Doc, and that would also show up in your insert learning changes. Yeah. So let me know if that's right on there or not. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is, so I received some emails from some of you for invites to our global PLC. And I'm just going to show you kind of how this works here. All right. So Keith, if you get spammed by lots of people for this, I deeply apologize because I don't know, Keith. Let's see. All right. Well, Keith, I'm going to add you on here. All right. So I'm just going to demonstrate how this works again. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. So I've got the email now, and I'm going to head over to my classes. And then I've got lots of classes. You probably won't have that many. But so instead of like giving people that class code, what you'll do is you just click on teachers and then invite co-teacher, paste in their email, click OK, and get a little message saying invite sent. There we go. And now, Keith, if you go, you receive an email, but also you can just simply go to your InsertLearning Dashboard, click on classes, and now you'll see it pop up over there. You can just click accept. When we kind of roll out our Teams feature, you won't need to do the co-teaching, but it's going to work very much like co-teaching. We haven't fully worked through like how we want the whole system to work, but I'm very excited about it. One of the things we're also kind of looking at is of, like insert learning working well on some of these different like edtech blogs that are out there. We're kind of talking with some different like edtech bloggers, so that insert learning could be just simply part of their site, so you wouldn't even need the extension, and people could kind of have these discussions. And you kind of create these like, these like community PLCs around that content, with the the edtech blogger also having control over everything. And so we're kind of exploring that idea a little bit. So if there's certain edtech blogs that you think this would be great on, send me an email and let me know. Email them. This is very much an experiment, just kind of like everything that we're doing. It's very experimental right now. And so this, that's what makes it a lot of fun. So we're kind of doing that as we go along. All right, so I'm going to switch back now, see if we've got any more questions here. We're getting down to the end of our 20 minutes. Yes, we got a couple things here. All right. Not sure if I'm clear. Not the Google Doc, but the Insert Learning tool. No, so students shouldn't be able to edit that. But if you had, let's see, as long as you just assigned it and not shared them the teacher link, then that wouldn't be an issue. And then let's see. So I'm kind of reading through our comments here. I'm sure you guys can see that too. Insert learning tools. All right, so hi, Craig. I know I've had trouble with sharing published Google Docs slides in classrooms. Okay. um, yeah, it's really fun. And yeah, if you've ever met Leslie Fisher before, well, I've met Casey Bell in person before, but just from her like podcast, like the two of them seem like amazing presenters. I've only met Leslie like briefly at a conference, and both of them have just these huge personalities. Yeah, so I'm excited. We're kind of exploring this whole idea of like how this is going to work. This case, you know what? I'll run through right now, and I'll just kind of like create something on a Google Doc right now since we've got everybody on board. Oh, well, actually, we're up at the end of 20 minutes, and if you can't hear the kids screaming in the background, my kids are home now. So we're going to call it a night here. And I'll send out, check out, just simply Google search Google Docs and Insert Learning if you got any questions. And we'll be heading out. Do you want to say hi, Malcolm? Okay. All right. Come on over real quick. All right. And Malcolm's going to say hi to everybody.
Hi.
All right. Good night, everyone. Have a great time with your global PD. And I'll talk to you next week.
Bye.